Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm Shelby Cornett, and I'm the ministry assistant at Cambridge City Christian Church. And I'm with Danny again, our lead pastor.
It's me
It's Danny again.
again. Again. You've really got to find more guests.
I know.
Yeah.
And Travis is always recording.
Yeah. And I preach most weeks.
Yeah,
So maybe you just need a new preacher. And then you'd have a different guest.
that's true.
Yeah.
We're taking applications.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Well, I'll leave.
No. But this week, we were still doing...
Wait a minute. You give somebody a podcast, and now they think they can fire and hire anybody
I'm
they
the
want.
boss.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Well, Travis hasn't been here as long as I have.
That's true.
So I'm almost there.
Yeah, you just got to get me out of the way, right?
Yeah. And all the elders and custodians and
Yeah, right. Everybody.
literally
else,
everybody else.
Yeah. So you've just laid out your whole takeover plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Travis hasn't been here as long as you. So
Travis is not a
one.
threat.
Okay. Oh, okay. Wow.
I just have
All right.
a whole lot of other people.
Okay.
Okay, do you have anything important to get to?
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know. I think we've covered the big... No. Okay.
The
Anyways.
most important part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The sermon Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
we're still doing All in the Family.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about widows and widowers.
Yeah.
And this one was hard for me.
It
to
was
come
hard
up
for
with
me
notes.
too. Did you notice that in
Yeah.
the message? It was kind of hard for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of stuff we can relate to, but this is so hard to relate to unless you've...
You've experienced it
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. But it was good. I liked that there was a segment about how we can help widows and widowers.
Mhm. Yeah, and understanding what they're going through.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because at 24, I haven't really thought about it that much.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, not saying it can't happen, but
Sure, right. It could
but-
always happen at any time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
but this is all my notes.
just
That's
a little,
it. Just this little
4
section.
lines. Okay.
Yeah, and I write kind of big, so
Mhm.
what I had was thinking about it, and while you were preaching Sunday, I was kind of like looking around the room at people, thinking about like who it applied to and
Mhm.
who we could be helping and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
And
Mhm.
I thought the widows and widowers in our church are some of the most influential people in the church. And I don't know if it's because I know you talked about when you become a widow or widower, dedicating more time to prayer and all that kind of stuff and helping others.
Mhm.
And I think people in our church have taken that seriously and have
You
done
know,
a very good job.
That's a really good insight. Yeah, I agree. I think that a lot of our widows and widowers in our church have continued to be very influential within our church and in our community.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I think you're right. I think on the most part
Yeah.
that's true.
And they're, I think, some of the strongest in their faith,
Yeah.
which is hard for me to understand, I guess, because I would think that would be a time where it would be hard to be
Mm.
strong in your faith. I think that would be a time when it would be easy to get down and
Mhm.
kind of shut everything out. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they've
Yeah.
done a great job. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I mean, I can think of people off the top of my head
Mhm.
that are very influential in my life, not just from a ministry perspective, but just personally,
Mhm.
and what they've meant to me and how they've impacted me. I shared the story on Sunday about growing up in a church that was primarily of older people and how a lot of the people that taught me in my children's church and Sunday school classes and stuff were widows or older, and their influence on my life. I mean, I'm indebted to them. I mean, I really feel like a lot of where God has led me on this journey was because of their influence. So it's, yeah, I mean, I really hope that the message Sunday really challenged our senior adults and our widows and widowers in particular to not think that because they're older or because their life circumstances change, because their spouse has passed away, that somehow their life is over, or that their time to serve is over. As a matter of fact, it should be the time when maybe you're amplifying what you're doing even more. So yeah, definitely,
And
I agree with you.
I know you also talked about, other cultures, like
Yeah,
how elders are like
they're held in very high regard.
and I think it should be that way.
It should.
And
Yeah.
because obviously they've been through stuff that we haven't, and I don't know. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think that that I didn't get into this Sunday because of time and going down rabbit trails,
Yeah.
which I can do sometimes. I think that there's some reasons for that. So when we look in Western culture, we tend to be very, we're materialistic. We're very capitalistic. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we're trying to sell products. So when you're trying to sell, there's this market economy, right? I think a lot of this drive toward youth and not so much towards senior adults and older people is because of that. If you look at a lot of demographics, so like when they do television shows, for instance, when they do the ratings, they always have the overall ratings, but then they have a subcategory that they always publish that shows the ratings of those that are like from 18 to 35 years
Right.
of age. Now, why do they do that? Well, it's because they know that if they can get a younger person connected to a product or a TV show or whatever, because the advertisers love the 18 to 35-year-olds on these TV shows. That's why they check the ratings, because if they can get them hooked on the product, then they got hopefully a lifelong product user. So I think that that's where a lot of it comes from, is everything's so driven and focused on younger people because of that, and it's kind of filtered over into the rest of culture.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. And I think it does speak, I said this Sunday, it speaks, I think, a little bit to the immaturity that we see in our culture when it comes to how people react to things and how they treat each other. And
We cater to younger people.
yeah. And churches can be guilty of that too. I mean, I've talked about that, and I think you have to find a balance. Because, I mean, obviously we do have to make sure that we're reaching the next generation, the younger generation. They're the future, the present and the future of the church. But we can't forget those who have come before as well.
And spent their whole lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause we do owe it to them to take care of them and
Yes.
respect and
Yeah.
to learn from them.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But that's all.
Yeah, that was a
I
good
had, I
insight.
didn't know.
That was a good insight. You know, our passage this week came from 1 Timothy 5. We looked at the first 10 verses, and it talked about a lot of things. There were so many things in those 10 verses. You know, there was one part that talked about if you don't care for your family, you're worse than an unbeliever. And yeah, there's a lot in there, but it does talk about some of the early requirements of widows and widowers and how they were cared for. But I did share that one of the things that did shock me and surprise me was how much widows and widowers are mentioned in the Bible, and in particular in the epistles, in the letters that are in the New Testament. Many of the New Testament books, especially the ones with Paul's authorship, he talks about widows and widowers.
Yeah.
So that tells you that widows and widowers had a really important role in the early church. And then we saw that, I mentioned it Sunday, we see that in later centuries, how they're even put up alongside of other offices like elders and deacons and pastors.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. And I don't know, I will say, I think I was a little bit ashamed that after 25, I mean, I've been in ministry, I started when I was, about 18 years old. I mean, I'm 43, so I've been doing this now for 25 years. I've never done a message on widows. That's shameful, I think. Now looking back at it, now that doesn't mean I was like purposely not,
Right.
but we should be talking about it more. So
I feel like hearing that it's mentioned that much in the Bible kind of like makes you rethink how you think about things
yeah,
and how how you treat people or
That's really good you brought that up, because I think sometimes what happens is we get so focused on particular topics that are of interest to us. We don't stand back with an objective mind and look at the Bible and say, okay, what is the Bible talking about the most?
yeah.
Like, because when you do that, for instance, Jesus talked about money more than any other topic. But yet, when we do sermon series, or I do sermon, and really not just me, most pastors do sermon series, it's about forgiveness or his love or miracles or whatever. Not so many about money.
Right.
But maybe it should be, because Jesus talked about it a lot. And then now we're talking about widows and widowers. It's talked about a lot more in there than maybe some of the other topics.
Difficult topics. I mean,
well, that's why with money, that's why we avoid it a lot of times. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, some of the most intimidating sermons I give were when you're talking about money, because you know that people they tend to be kind of skittish about that,
right?
You know, and think that churches just want my money or whatever. And
right.
It's like, no, the Bible talks all the time about stewardship. So,
right.
But yeah, it can still bring out the nervousness in you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think widows and widowers, maybe we haven't talked about it much for the reason that I shared Sunday, and that is we don't most pastors don't have experience in that. Unless you're an older pastor, you don't have experience in most cases in being a widow or widower yourself. So it's harder to talk about things that you haven't experienced yourself.
Because I thought we talked about parenting last week or the week before.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago.
And how easy it is to talk about parenting.
Yeah.
But then this sermon, I was like,
yeah.
Because it's just different. We don't talk about it very often. So I liked that we talked about it.
But we should, and you should, I mean, in it, Lord willing, and please, Lord, you know, hopefully you won't have to worry about it for 50 years or whatever for you. You still need to think about and be prepared for that, you know, when that time comes.
Right.
So, and I really do hope those who watch Sunday or listen Sunday do think about it this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. So next week we will do
next
community.
Next week. I mean, it is sort of connected to the All in the Family series, but we're talking about life groups. Life group signups are
they start next week.
They start wrapping up. Yeah, we've been doing them for a few weeks. Yeah, we're wrapping it up. So if you're watching and you haven't signed up, you need to sign up.
Young adult group.
Young adult group. I have a life group. So we want to make sure you do that. So we're going to be talking about what does it mean to be connected to a life group, and then we're going to also introduce our life group leaders.
Cool.
This Sunday. So yeah,
that'll be exciting.
And then next Sunday is Back to Church Sunday. We're gonna have a big celebration that day.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun, and then we'll be out in the community.
Be the church.
We'll be the church and go out in the community and do various projects. So it's going to be an exciting few weeks here coming up.
Yeah,
we're really looking.
It'll be
forward to
different.
It'll be different. Yeah, it'll be good.
So hopefully you guys will watch and come join us for Back to Church and Be the Church, and we will see you next week.